So with that, let's convene the second part of our discussion with basically, that's okay. Thank you. With involvement of numerous leaders of the industry. And as you will see, we added quite a number of 6 panelists. His Excellency Abdulrahman Al Ibrahim, Governor of SWIC. I will do a very short introduction because most of them are well known to the industry, desalination industry. Dr. Corrado Somariva, Managing Director of ILF, immediate past President of IDA, here President and Director in United Arab Emirates. Dr. Hassan Arafat, Associate Professor, Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering at Masdar Institute, also here in Abu Dhabi. Mr. William Chang, Executive Managing Director of Emirates Semcor